This is a great episode, folks. Let's start Tesla Cybertruck FSD 14.1.7 self-driving. You'll notice this thing is backing out by itself, and this is not a very wide garage, so it came out really fast, and it made me very nervous. I was like, at one point panicking. I'm like, side view mirrors are gonna hit the garage door, but they did it. And so this was incredibly impressive. It did it with confidence, it did it quickly, did it smoothly, and we see it just backed out of the driveway. And before I forget, I gotta close my garage door because I don't have that automatically synced up. But yeah, folks, let's go ahead and go on my work commute to the office on my very first ride with FSD 14.1.7. And as you can tell on the screen here, we are driving in MadMax mode because frankly, I drive no other mode. As we go on this journey, periodically, I'm gonna talk about what's going on in the video. Other times, I'm gonna share and answer some questions I've gotten from folks about Tesla, the Cybertruck, and autonomous driving. And occasionally I'll throw in a plug or two for some of my other content that I create on YouTube. So here we've got a simple two left turn on a two-way street. We see there's really no cars on the right. And as soon as this car passes, the truck's going to simply start turning. And it does it incredibly smoothly as well. One of the key differences I've seen between this version of FSD and the one I had prior on the Cybertruck was that one would take a very long time to turn, and they'd always be hesitant about doing so, even when it could easily make the turn. So it was really nice to see that now it finally started doing that with confidence. And through the rest of this video, by the way, there are going to be other very awesome moments where I'll give some context around areas where the previous version of FSD struggled with it, some issues, some annoyances that would bother me, and then the difference on how it's doing now. Do you think the general public is ready for self-driving cars everywhere, not just on highways? I don't think the general public is. And the reason for that is because the technology has to help people overcome a very real and understandable fear of completely no longer being in control of a vehicle. So I think that still has a very long way to go. So another thing I'm right away noticing is finally this version of FSD, specifically with MadMax mode, it is not afraid to go above the speed limit. It's not afraid to quickly get to the speed limit. In previous versions, even in the hurry mode, it was infuriating how slow it would be. But you know, this one has no issues here. As we can notice, we're hitting some traffic here, so it slows down. But yeah, we've got here MadMax. We've got all the other modes. I'm sorry, to each their own, but I think anything below hurry is just unacceptable. I would never do it. And you'll also notice that we have the options to choose what we're going to do at the destination. There's two types of destinations right now on the Cybertruck. You've got park mode and curbside mode. In park mode, you can choose whether you wanted to park in the driveway, park in the parking lot, but I expect more options to be added because I didn't see a park in the garage mode. So hopefully Tesla is working on adding that to the Cybertruck version of FSD, because even though it seems like they're starting to converge, the reality is I still think they're on separate software branches. And also, while we're waiting, I should talk a little bit more about myself, right? So I got my very first Tesla, maybe around in 2017, and I bought a used 2014 Model S, beautiful blue color in the exterior. And I remember I snagged it, I think for like $50,000 or $55,000. It only had like 20 or 30,000 miles on it. And when it was first sold to the original owner, he had paid around $100,000, $110,000 for it. So I immediately lucked out just simply by waiting. Unfortunately, with the Cybertruck, I couldn't wait just because I loved how unique it was, how different. And I personally love the aesthetics of it. I love the minimalistic look to it. And I missed Tesla's full self-driving because prior to the Cybertruck, I had bought a Ford F-150 Lightning. And don't get me wrong, I think Ford did a phenomenal job with that. I know that they're currently contemplating no longer manufacturing those things, and they're really struggling to make a profit. That is not a surprise. It is so hard, not just to make an electric vehicle and an electric truck, but to do so at a profit. And I think Tesla is one of the very, very few manufacturers that's gotten that down. The need for this type of technology became an absolute must for me. And I've owned the Cybertruck now for about 6, 7, or 8 months, and I've absolutely love it. No complaints. Have you had any sketchy moments on a drive so far where the FSD made you nervous? To be honest, yes. There was a time where I was at a grocery store and I started FSD and it began backing out of the parking spot, and I realized in one of the camera views that there was a person that was starting to walk through, And at first, the truck began backing up way too quickly for my liking. It did slow down, and I even saw the person wave at me to tell me to continue backing up. But in that moment right there where I wasn't 100% in control, seeing it back up that quickly made me a little nervous. But at the end of the day, I think it did a very good job. It slowed down, and then it backed up just enough where it was able to then pull out of that spot by going forward. Okay, so we're coming up to this unprotected left turn. This one, prior to this version, I would just always disengage. It would never, ever make the turn. So instead here, I'm gonna give it a little bit of time before I get impatient. First thing I'm noticing is I wish Tesla would work on letting cars turn into the middle lane. Right now, in moments like this, the left side of traffic, there's no cars. No one is coming, but at any point, traffic could start accumulating. So even before it started turning there, I would have wanted it to turn into the middle lane and wait there until it could then finish turning into the right lane, into the right side of the road here. But this did it very well. Again, what impresses me about this new version is just how smooth it does it once it decides to commit to the action. Any regrets on a specific accessory or a feature you wish it had? No? Okay, what we just saw there is our very first confident turn left because there's less traffic on the left lane. The left lane is faster. And as soon as the car that was in that lane turned left, I would say just as soon as it turned its blinker on and started moving to the other lane, the Cybertruck went ahead and immediately turned a left turn signal on and started shifting lanes, which is awesome to see. We're actually going to see if it decides to then turn right and overtake this bus, because I have a rule. Oh, look at that. It is. That's awesome. One of my rules on the road is if you're behind a big truck, a big bus, or behind a Toyota Prius, you need to overtake them. It's not worth the risk of you being stuck behind a very slow vehicle. So that's what we just saw here in perfection. It decided to turn right, overtake the bus on the left, and then just simply came back on the left lane immediately as it could. It felt very human and very natural. So far, this MadMax version gets a huge thumbs up, but we've got a lot more road to go, more city driving, more highway driving, and we've actually got a school zone that we're about to approach here. Does the system handle lane changes better than previous versions you've tried? Oh, 100%. The two Teslas I've driven with autonomous driving, my first one was a 2014 Tesla Model S. That was basically dumb self-driving, what we see in most cars today. And the other version is my Cybertruck. Prior to this FSD version 14.1.7, it was doing lane changes really just, cautiously, inefficient, but it still did them. It just made me very frustrated in terms of how slow and cautious it was. Me putting on MadMax mode, these lane changes are much more confident, smooth, and the way I would be making them if I was in control. So a huge improvement. Here is that moment. So out in the distance, it might be a little hard to see here, but the reason traffic is starting to slow down is because, as you see here, we are entering a school zone. Now, previous software versions didn't give no fucks on this. It just kept going at approximately 45, 50 miles an hour. But here, it was so cool. You can see the distance it has between the car in front of it and where it's at. So it's not slowing down because of traffic. It's not slowing down because other cars are slowing down. It slowed down because it noticed that this was a school zone. So this is a well-received upgrade just because of this aspect. It's safe for the school, the kids, and most importantly, it saves you from getting a very annoying speeding in a school zone ticket. Another moment right there. So again, so this is the way I drive. If I see that I've got a long way to go before I need to make a turn, and I'm in a current lane that is way slower than the other lane, the natural thing is you must turn to the other lane and keep traffic flowing optimally. And so I would always do that. The previous version of FSD would never do that. It would just stay in its lane unless it needed to actually start making a turn in, say, half a mile or a mile away. We just saw their MadMax mode efficiently realize that there was less traffic on the right lane, moved to the right, then overtook the cars that were causing the slowness on the left lane, which, by the way, I must say, they suck for doing that. But we overtook them, and then as we see, we also then merged back to the right lane because, again, it was more optimal to do that. So I am loving this new version. It mirrors exactly the way most people should drive and the way I drive. So we're already seeing a lot of cool stuff, but we're not done yet. There's a lot of other gotchas where the previous version of FSD failed before, so I'm going to continue calling them out here for folks and some of the Q&A that we've got going on here. How is the seat comfort on a long drive like this? Really good question. When I had my 2014 Tesla Model S, the answer was incredibly uncomfortable. I did not like driving that thing any more than I'd say 30 miles. My back would start hurting. It'd just be bad. This Cybertruck with this premium seats, oh my God, it is next level. Incredibly comfortable. So they did a very good job with the comfort level with these seats. Ah, yes. Loving this overtake mode and confidence. This, I believe, is a 45. So MadMax mode has us already hitting 58, 57. So already above that, quote unquote, allowed, you're going 10 miles over mode. Okay, started slowing down there a bit. That's good. I was getting a little nervous there, but we're gonna, as long as it stays within 10 miles over the speed limit, I think that is exactly its sweet spot. Anything above that really should only happen, in my opinion, to overtake vehicles, and therefore it should be very short time period for it to do that. What's your personal miles per intervention average been on a trip? If I'm not impatient where I have to cut into an HOV lane, I'd say no more than once. It's likely been 0 times. Hey, there we saw that car turn. FSD did not need to slow down whatsoever, and it didn't. So again, kudos to it. I think in previous versions it would be very cautious and start slowing down, and we didn't see that there. What's the actual range you're getting compared to the advertised range? To be honest, I can't remember what the advertised range is. I frankly never believed Tesla what their advertised ranges are, because ever since I got my 2014 Tesla Model S, I knew that they exaggerate those numbers. If there's one thing that Ford did very well with their F-150 Lightning, is that their advertised range was practically spot on. But with the Tesla, I think what I'm getting on a full charge is approximately 315, maybe 320 miles. And I haven't really tested it going from 100% down to 0% to see how accurate that is, just because I charge so often. And really that is why the whole notion of range anxiety is kind of a myth, to be honest, because you have charging just about anywhere you go, as long as you've got an outlet. So I get to charge for free at my office. That's a good 9 hours every time I go there. And I get to charge at my house if I needed to, but I rarely do, because between the office and free charges I get whenever I'm running errands, that's all I need. So I'm practically not paying anything at all for any charging. And if you actually see the image above, it will show you what my average year-to-date savings are, just because I don't pay for any electricity to charge this thing. And obviously there's no other fuel cost and practically no maintenance cost. This thing is saving me a ton of money for obviously me knowing how much I'm paying for it based on the loan I have for it. So here's another moment, guys. This is a 55. We've hit 69 miles per hour. Giggity. But that's close to that 15 over. I could have, and there's usually a cop in the median right there. So the fact that it's easily going 15 over is a problem with me. I could have easily gone a ticket there, and I mean, at that point I have to pay it. Tesla still isn't liable for that. So I do hope that Tesla ends up adjusting that. I mean, really, there's no reason to go 10 miles over the speed limit unless it's overtaking. And that, I know one could argue that might have been the situation there. It's just so it needed to overtake that very slow truck. But that was, I think it had plenty of room still. Like, that really should be a last moment aspect, and we could have done a little better job there. All right, folks, we are now starting to merge onto the famous I-75 here in Atlanta, Georgia. So let's see how this handles this. This is another moment where I would always disengage the previous version of FSD, because what you'll notice upcoming shortly here is the typical alternating red-green light between 2 lanes to take turns merging onto the highway. Previous versions of FSD, it never handled that. What would happen is it would get to the light, it would see the stop, and then when it was its turn to go after the light turned green, it wouldn't go. It would just stay there. And then the green light would turn red, and I would have drivers in the back going, "What the hell are you doing, you idiot? Go!" And so I'd always have to disengage, and I started doing that proactively. Okay, so we're getting close to that moment here. Again, I'm looking at this, and I'm like, why is this thing staying on the left? There's a right lane. There's less cars there. It really should be turning right now, but it's not. I'm looking at the rear view mirror. There's no cars behind us. Well, one just passed by and it's moving. So again, my human reaction here is if car is moving that far ahead, we have space to turn right. So at any moment here, I'm hoping that the truck decides to turn right. And there it is. Awesome. Good, good. So a little slow to react there, but I think what I'm noticing is that it does have the ability to reason. If it sees a car that is passing you on the other lane and that car goes far ahead straight to the point where the cameras can't even see it, that tells the truck that it is safe to turn that way, and it should turn that way. And that's what we just saw there. All right, here it is. Pardon for the glare, but we're gonna see we approach the light, we stop, and then it's our turn to go, and it finally goes. No need to touch the accelerator pedal. It just simply did it, and that is awesome. One less disengagement that I have to do. And I apologize for all of the glare, folks. It's that time of the day. So we're either going to fast forward through all of the spots that have glare, or I'll simply cut out those moments and we're going to jump straight to the next part that where we don't have it. But I didn't want to do that here because now we are merging onto highway traffic. This has been shown in a lot of other videos, but I want to share it because it really is the first time you let an autonomous car like Tesla do this, it is life-changing. Like your jaw will drop at how cool and efficient it does this. It's just a moment, and it's so safe as well. To the moment, even in MadMax mode, sometimes I say I would have just cut that motherfucker off and we would have kept on going. But no, it's really, in my opinion, safer than a person when it's doing these type of lane changes on the highway. And so right now, one of the things I'm noticing that is really interesting to call out is normally in previous versions, it would go to the far left lane always, no matter what the traffic conditions looked like. This is the first time, because it's the first time I'm running this version of the software, that I'm noticing it's staying on the middle lane. Let me tell you why that's so smart and why I think the software is doing this. By being in the middle lane, you have a better line of sight across all lanes, left and right. And so what I'm hoping the truck is doing is it's analyzing the traffic movement on both sides to determine which lane it should probably go for the rest of the ride here. And so by being in this lane, it both improves its visibility of all the other lanes, and then it'll improve its ability and agility to be able to decide left or right and not exactly be tied to only far left or middle lane. Here, it has a little more room for options. But unfortunately, we are in Atlanta, so we are gonna hit quite a bit of traffic. And so we're just gonna let this thing continue going and continue answering some more of the questions. At what point does supervised full self-driving become truly unsupervised in the eyes of the law? I can't answer that, folks, but I have had discussions with lawyers just open-ended asking about this. The general answer I've gotten is it's still got a very long ways to go. There's a lot of legislation. The entire ecosystem of how of that aspect is not a matter of technology. It's a matter of policy, regulation, lawsuits. It comes down to liability. And so until those conversations are agreed upon by the manufacturer of the vehicles, the manufacturer of the software, or by the infrastructure as a whole, we're not going to be anywhere near close to unsupervised in the eyes of the law. Another thing that I always do when I'm physically driving a car is I do check my line of sight ahead of me, and I look at the overall flow to the lanes immediately next to me. And if one of them is flowing faster, I turn to that lane. And so that's what we just saw there. It took a little bit of time. I think a total of 3 or 4 cars passed us on the left lane before I decided to change, but it did at some point do it. And again, I think that's the right call, especially if you're at a higher vantage point and you're able to see and predict the overall flow in the future based on the traffic patterns you're seeing. Especially with the truck being more elevated than some of the other Teslas, has an advantage over that to be able to select a flow that has optimal flow. So here is another example, right? Like me as a person, look at the far right 2 lanes. They are going. I get familiar with traffic flows on I-75, and I know that until I hit a certain point on that highway, the far right 2 most lanes are going to be faster in certain spots. And I hope that at some point, somehow, Tesla FSD can start recognizing those patterns. Maybe just simply by driving and observing this exact scenario. I don't know how it's going to do that from a technical feasibility perspective. There's ways where you can actually give AI memory, but it has to be very well designed because it can be quite costly from a resource perspective. But again, we're going to let this continue doing its thing. I haven't had a need to interject at all, and we're already 22 minutes into the ride here. So that is awesome. Ooh, there we just started getting some notifications. Now, normally, What I've gotten from these versions from Tesla are the notifications, please pay attention to the road. Even though I am looking ahead, my eyes may not be glued straight ahead, but it still bothers me. Here, what I'm noticing is for the first time, at least with my Cybertruck, it's asking me to please rotate the steering wheel a little bit. This is peculiar. I haven't seen that since my 2014 Model S. And so it caught me a little bit off guard, but you saw me there. I started moving the steering wheel a little bit, and we're gonna see we're gonna see how long this lasts. There's another one right there. It just came back up, and again, we're just gonna move it gently. It goes away. I wonder how long that's gonna take, but at some point, I hope that it does go away and then actually re-enters the hands-free mode driving, because that really is what makes Tesla worthwhile compared to, say, the Ford F-150 Blue Cruise, which I used for about a year and a half. And I absolutely hated Ford Blue Cruise. I thought it was the most buggy software, ineffective. But here I had to interject, folks. The reason I had to interject is because I know we're about to enter really heavy traffic up ahead. And unfortunately, the Cybertruck failed to merge onto the HOV lane when it was supposed to. So that, I hope Tesla corrects. I do have in the settings the use HOV lanes enabled. So there was no reason for it to not do that when it should have. So just take a look at all that traffic I am saving myself against. So did I have to interject? No, I didn't have to, but I kind of did, unless I wanted to lose about 10 to 15 minutes of my day. So yeah, you can see here, once again, the nagging, please apply some pressure on the steering wheel, comes back. But now we're at a cool point here. We've got 2.5 miles left to go, and the truck has decided that it wanted to exit the HOV lane and begin getting close to going on the right lane so that it can exit the highway. Let me tell you a little bit about what used to happen with previous FSD modes. The truck would go way more farther along and then get into a situation where it either would have to turn last minute and it wouldn't really give me confidence that it would be able to do so, so I would have to disengage. And so seeing MadMax decide to exit the HOV lane right away is interesting. I think certain conditions make sense for it to do so. In that case, the traffic didn't look too bad. So I myself would have done the same thing, because at some point, the far right lane will go faster than the far left lanes, which is what we're about to start seeing here. So I was really happy with that decision. But sometimes the HOV lane, you can still get another mile out of it before you turn right. So I'm going to continue playing with that and observing it, just because I will find it interesting to see how it decides to begin exiting the HOV lane and start going closer to taking the off-ramp exit. But we're getting very close to wrapping our drive to work. And so, folks, if you did find this enjoyable, please let me know in the comments below. Please let me know what other type of conditions you want to see. But one thing is watching it on a screen like you're experiencing here, but the other one is immersing yourself in it. And so I've got a special promotion for everyone here. The first 10 people that buy a new Tesla with the promo code that you see below, also available in the description of this video, can get $1,000 off their purchase or 3 months off for free FSD. But even better than that, you can use this promotion code to get a free full self-driving demo where you get into the driver's seat, and trust me, that is where the magic's gonna happen, where you're gonna realize this is a game changer. And it's also just, frankly, so much fun the first time you pop your cherry and let a car drive itself. So be sure to try it out, folks. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, follow me, subscribe to my channel. I've got more content on the way highlighting specific situations that I experienced with full self-driving MadMax mode with my Cybertruck, as well as so much other goodies around path to home ownership in these days where affordability is lacking, as well as once you do accomplish home ownership, how to save a lot of money by being handy around a house to do maintenance projects, repair projects, and even renovation projects. As always, folks, thank you for tuning in.